This story is not about how a hero became great. It's about how he fell apart, and why that still means something to us today. At the walls of Troy, a man is driving a chariot. Something is being dragged behind it. A warrior, a prince, a man named Hector, who just moments ago was the greatest fighter Troy had ever seen. He's gone now, but he's still being pulled across the dirt, around the walls of his own city. While his family watches from above, his father, his mother, his wife, the man driving the chariot doesn't stop. 1 lap, 2, 3, he's crying. Whether from rage or grief, he probably couldn't tell you himself. That man is Achilles, the greatest warrior in all of Greek mythology. And yet, looking at this moment, can you still call him a hero? Achilles was a tragedy before he was even born. His mother, Thetis, was a sea nymph, a divine being, forced by the gods to marry a mortal man. And so the son she carried was something in between. Not fully a god, not fully human. From the beginning, Thetis knew what her son's fate would be. Go to Troy, die young, but be remembered forever. Stay home, live long, and be forgotten completely. Neither choice was kind, so she refused to choose. She carried her newborn son down to the river Styx, the river that runs through the underworld, and she dipped him in. The waters of that river were said to make whatever they touched untouchable by any weapon. Thetis held her son by the ankle and lowered him in. His whole body was covered, every inch of him protected, except for the one spot her hand was holding. That's where the phrase, Achilles' heel, comes from. The idea that even the strongest person has one weak point, and the cruel irony is that his weak spot was the exact place. His mother held the tightest. But Thetis didn't stop there. When Achilles was still young, she took him to the island of Skyros. She dressed him in women's clothing and left him to be raised among the daughters of the island's king, hidden in plain sight. While the Greek armies were preparing to sail for Troy, Achilles wasn't there. But the Greeks knew they couldn't win without him. There was a prophecy: no Achilles, no victory. So Odysseus went looking. He arrived at Skyros disguised as a merchant, and spread out a collection of goods in front of the young women of the palace. Fine fabrics, jewelry, mirrors, and tucked in among all of it, a sword and a spear. Every woman reached for cloth or jewels. One reached for the blade without hesitating. Odysseus looked at her. It was Achilles. Some things you simply cannot hide. The Trojan War lasted 10 years. And for much of it, Achilles was the most feared name on the battlefield. When he appeared, the Trojan soldiers ran. When he fought, people fell. But then, midway through the war, Achilles stopped fighting. The reason sounds almost too simple. Agamemnon, the commander of the Greek forces, took something that belonged to Achilles. A woman named Briseis, who had come to Achilles as a prize of war. Agamemnon had lost someone of his own, and just decided to take her as a replacement. Achilles was furious. He walked off the battlefield and locked himself in his tent. The Greek army struggled without him. Men died, ground was lost, and still, Achilles didn't move. To outsiders, it looked like pure pride, like a grown man throwing a tantrum. But there's something deeper going on. Achilles had chosen a short life. He had traded decades of quiet, living for the chance to have a name that would outlast him. Honor wasn't just important to him. It was the entire point. When Agamemnon took Briseis, he wasn't just stealing a prize. He was telling Achilles that his name, his sacrifice, his choice meant nothing. And Achilles couldn't survive that. Then Patroclus stepped forward. Patroclus had grown up alongside Achilles. What exactly they were to each other has been debated for a long time. Brothers in arms. Something more. What's clear is that to Achilles, Patroclus was not just a companion. He was the person who mattered most. Patroclus watched the Greek army falling apart. He couldn't take it anymore. He went to Achilles and made a request. Let me go out in your place. Lend me your armor. The Trojans will think you've returned, and they'll fall back. Achilles agreed, but he made one condition. Don't push too far. Strike hard, then come back. Patroclus couldn't keep that promise. In the heat of the battle, he went deeper and deeper into enemy lines. And there he met Hector, the greatest of Troy's warriors, the son of the Trojan king. Hector killed him, wearing the armor of Achilles. When word reached Achilles, he collapsed. He fell to the ground. He covered himself in dust. He cried out so loudly, the legends say, that his mother heard him from the bottom of the sea and came running. When Thetis arrived and found her son, he looked up at her and said only two things. Patroclus is gone, and I want Hector to pay for it. Thetis already knew what that meant. She knew that if Achilles killed Hector, Achilles himself would die shortly after. That was the prophecy. That had always been the prophecy. But she didn't try to stop him. Maybe she understood that some grief cannot be argued with. When Achilles returned to the battlefield, everything changed instantly. The Trojan forces fell back in fear. Achilles swept through the field, looking for one person only. He found Hector standing outside the walls of Troy. Hector was brave. He was a prince, a father, a beloved son. He was everything Troy had. But when he looked into the eyes of Achilles that day, he ran around the walls. 3 full circles. Then he stopped, turned, and fought. He lost. After Hector fell, Achilles tied his ankles to the back of his chariot and drove around the city walls. The family on the walls above had to watch. And then for days afterward, Achilles kept doing it. Every morning, dragging Hector's remains around the camp. As if grief could be worn out like a fire that eventually runs out of fuel. Even the gods were disturbed by it. Some things, they said, were not meant to be done to the fallen. Then came the moment nobody expected. One night, an old man appeared at the entrance of Achilles' tent. Alone. No guards. No weapons. Just an aging king who had walked through enemy lines in the dark. It was Priam, the king of Troy, Hector's father. He came to ask for his son back. Priam knelt before the man who had taken everything from him. And he said something like this: think of your own father. He's out there somewhere, growing old, hoping his son comes home. I'm a father too, and I'm asking you, man to man, to let me bring my boy home. Achilles went still, and then he wept. Priam wept too. 2 men on opposite sides of a war. One had killed the other's son. And yet in that moment, they were just 2 people sitting inside the same grief. Achilles gave Priam back what he came for. He shared a meal with him. He made sure the old king could leave safely before sunrise. For one night, the rage was gone. What was left underneath it was just a person. Achilles didn't live much longer after that. A single arrow, shot by Paris, the Trojan prince, found its mark. Not through armor. Not through strength. It struck him in the ankle. The one place his mother's hand had been holding when she carried him through those sacred waters. The spot she had gripped the hardest was the one that finally let him go. What I keep coming back to, when I think about this story, is this. Before Patroclus died, Achilles refused to fight. Because his pride had been wounded. After Patroclus died, he forgot about pride entirely. He wasn't fighting for glory anymore. He wasn't fighting for honor or for his name to be remembered. He was just in pain, and he didn't know what else to do with it. That's the part that gets me. Achilles didn't become destructive because he was a bad person. He became destructive because he loved someone deeply, and that someone was taken from him. Grief doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like fury. Sometimes it looks like a man who can't stop moving, can't stop fighting. Because the moment he slows down, he has to feel the full weight of what he's lost. This legend has been told for thousands of years. Not because Achilles was superhuman, but because he was painfully, recognizably human. We've all had a moment where loss turned us into something we didn't recognize. Where love and rage and sorrow all collapsed into the same feeling. And we didn't know where one ended and the other began. That's what Achilles is. He's not a symbol of strength. He's a mirror, and when you look into it, you might see something closer to yourself than you expected.